Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod, the messy debate in the Democratic Party of 2024. While some are rallying around a resolute President Biden, others aren't. Politico's Jonathan Martin joins us from Washington.
They didn't want to countenance the idea of a messy Democratic primary this year. It was just easier to salute and say, I'm for the incumbent, I'm for Biden.
And technology players are striking AI alliances. The Information's founder, Jessica Lessin, maps out our big tech future.
What we're really seeing here is a very, very expensive land grab over what we're now calling supercomputers. And I think it has a lot of implications for really the business models and cost structures of these companies going forward.
Plus, it's all about that chip. Amazon out with its newest processor, venture capital giant Andreessen Horowitz stocking up on super fast chips, and here's something different. Which generations are ready for retirement?
We don't need to talk about what any of us are, I don't think.
We're timeless. We're all timeless.
It's Wednesday, July 10th, 2024. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand by in 3, 2, 1. Cue it, please.
Good morning and welcome to Squawk Box here on CNBC. We're live at the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Melissa Lee along with Joe Kernen. Becky and Andrew are off today. The S&P 500 had a 6th consecutive winning session yesterday, so this could be the 7th.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think they're fresh, new high. They're stale. They're stale.
Well,
they happen every day.
Fair,
they happen every day. It's
new
getting
highs.
stale.
Well, yesterday's
it's redundant.
record
It's
was
redundant
stale
to say,
as
right.
opposed to a record today.
No, but it's redundant to say fresh all-time new highs.
If it hits a record,
it's a new high.
Record.
Yeah, it's a new high. It's a new high. It's not fresh. It's not stale. It's not record. It's not all-time. It's a new high. It's a new high. It's a new high.
But it could be a new 52-week high. It could be
no,
a new
okay,
record
new
high.
all-time high.
Intraday record high.
You could say new all-time, but you don't have to
high,
characterize it as fresh or fresh.
New,
just sounds.
Yeah, I understand.
People don't.
I understand your pet peeve.
Can I have a lot of those. Like my like single best idea. That kills me. Single best idea.
Why?
Because you can only have one best idea. Doesn't have to be single. Use Strunken White, brevity. Right. Use only.
Not everybody
you're
can
good.
be.
No, you
not
are.
Everybody
you're good.
Can be as.
You're good.
Good as you, Joe.
You are good. You're very brief. 40%. I did the math. 39% is what Apple has done since April. It's $3.5 trillion. So it's not your average company that goes up 40% in 2 months. Your average company goes up 40% in 2 months. Maybe it's, if you're lucky, it might be $1 billion. We're talking about 40% on $3.5 trillion. That's like going up almost the amount of most of the S&P 100 just in one stock.
In this short amount of time.
In one stock.
For the year.
For market cap.
For the year.
Yep.
It's playing catch up.
Really?
Relative, yeah.
165, and that was at the height of, Apple is behind on AI. It looks like they're going to have to sort of contract it out, their AI efforts.
And they did.
And more, I think. Maybe that's the way to do it. We're watching the shares today. This is after research firm IDC said global PC shipments rose by 3% in the second quarter. Apple saw the biggest growth, jumping nearly 21% year over year. Next biggest was from Acer with a 14% growth. And Apple shares were up more than 18% just in the last month, reaching fresh, new, all-time record highs where the stock has never traded before in yesterday's session. In uncharted territory. In case we haven't figured out what we're trying to say. Apple's market cap now topping the $3.5 trillion. So if it was at 40% on 165, and now $3.5 trillion, so it was. What do you think about maybe $2.5 trillion? There. So it's added $1 trillion of money. And there are not many $1 trillion. There's only
companies,
a few. Yeah,
right.
There's only a few. It added that much. Tim Cook's pretty good. Pretty good. You watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Of course I do.
You do.
I did, yeah.
Pretty good. New report in The Information. The Information, it's called. It says VC firm Andreessen Horowitz has purchased and stockpiled more than 20,000 graphics microprocessors, including many H100 processors. Those are my personal favorite from Nvidia. I like do you like blue ones?
As opposed to the H200.
I like the blue ones and the Blackwells.
I like the purple
No
ones.
idea.
What are you talking about?
Nothing. That doesn't come in colors. I know. I don't. I'm saying that when we say that the 100, everyone out there says, I have no idea what an A100 from an A200. They don't.
If you follow Nvidia,
right,
as our audience does.
Okay. Then why do the experts that come on still call it Nvidia? In an effort to win deals for AI startups, that's why they're doing it. The report says that the company has rented out the GPUs to many of its portfolio companies. That's similar to a move by former GitHub CEO Nat Friedman, but on a bigger scale. In June of last year, Friedman announced that he and VC investor Daniel Gross had bought 2,500 GPUs to set up an AI cloud service that they made available to the startups that they were backing. Kind of interesting to, attract the money as a VC firm.
We've got this. You need this, so come on over.
Smart.
Yeah. Elon Musk appeared to confirm a report that his company xAI has ended talks to expand an agreement with Oracle to rent Nvidia chips. Musk said the decision to end the talks comes as xAI builds the most powerful training cluster in the world by a large margin. He said the company is building a supercomputer with 100,000 Nvidia GPUs and was contracting 24,000 chips from Oracle.
Amazon Web Services launching its 4th generation Graviton processor. Cool name. Chip's going to offer the cloud services customers more computing power and memory. Graviton, meanwhile, it's not an AI chip, but it supports Amazon's 2 chips that are focused on AI technology. You got to go to, while you watch Squawk Box, you should really have a little bit of EE background today, I think, don't you think?
You think
Is this the future? Every single story is going to be about chips. Yeah, every single.
A lot of it for
chips are everywhere
right now.
And they are everywhere.
Theme.
Cars everywhere. They're everything.
Your washing machine.
Everything.
Yes.
Wow.
Speaking of Amazon executive chairman Jeff Bezos has sold another $863 million worth of the company's stock. The sale was disclosed in an 8-K filing and comes just days after Bezos disclosed that he had sold nearly $5 billion worth of stock. The sales are part of a plan announced in February that said he may sell as many as 50 million shares before early 2025. Amazon is up more than 31% year to date. Little change pre-market here.
More Americans say they're on track with their retirement savings this year than last. That's good, according to a new survey by BlackRock. Yet that optimism is not shared across generations. Sharon Epperson is here with us now to break it down. Just make sure I know what you're talking about.
I will make sure you know.
The generation XXX, what? How old are they? Oh, I'm sorry.
You know.
Oh, you're right. Generation. Okay, generation.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
Are they 45? 45 is the...
For Generation X?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
45.
they're in their mid-40s and 50s.
And then millennial beneath that.
Yes.
And then generation...
Z below that.
Z.
Okay. So BlackRock asked employers and workers about retirement savings plans and the impact on their future. Gen Z in their 20s and mid-30s, the youngest in the workforce, feel confident about retirement. In fact, 77% of them say they feel on track to retire with the lifestyle that they want, the most of any generation. Still, 69% of them worry about outliving their savings. Gen Xers, on the other hand, in their mid-40s and 50s, are the most steady savers, with an 80% of them saving a consistent amount for retirement. But they're also the least likely to feel on track. Well, overall, workers are feeling better about retirement savings than their employers. 68% of workers say they're on track, while just 58% of plan sponsors said the same. Employers and plan sponsors are looking at how they can help employees generate income in retirement. One way could be including an annuity option in workplace plans for a steady stream of guaranteed income. Joe.
In the old days, well, I'll ask you this. How many 401k and workplace retirement plans offer annuities? And in the old days, when I used to be there, that would be, an annuity would be for tax-deferred income. Why would you put it in a qualified plan anyway?
People want to have a steady stream of income.
So it has
and they're very concerned
nothing to do with the
about
tax deferral.
Well, they're going to have the same tax ramifications as you would in a 401k with your 401k because it's in that 401k plan. What a lot of companies are doing, in fact, one industry group says that about 4 out of 10 plan sponsors are now looking at putting an annuity option in their retirement plan or having some way that you can get to it linked to the plan outside of it. Employees are saving, And then particularly Gen Xers want to know, what am I going to have for a steady stream besides Social Security? And there's nothing really there unless they do an annuity.
But you can do the annuity outside of a 401k
You could also do it
and have the
outside,
same
right.
benefit.
But
you don't need the tax deferral in the 401k.
But here's the thing, will you do it? So I think that, set it and forget it,
So
which is what a lot of people do with their retirement savings. This is one way to make sure that you have that option in there.
Now, I guess I care about Generation Xers. Can we talk about me? What else can Generation Xers
Well, this is for you too, Joe. This is for you too. It's amazing how many people don't realize when they're over 50, when they turn 50, the year they turn 50, that birthday celebration should include maxing out your retirement savings and taking that catch-up contribution. So now with your 401k, if you're 50 or older, you can put in $30,500 this year. Some people don't know that. Some people don't know how much their Social Security benefit will be, or they haven't estimated that. You can go on the Social Security Administration's website and check that out and figure out how much it would be if you delayed retirement to 70, which is the maximum time that you could do that to get the maximum benefit. And in this survey, it showed that not everyone is working with a financial advisor. Some people don't need one. But if you need to get on track, stay on track, and figure out all the other things that may weigh into how you're doing with your retirement, like caring for adult children, not caring for them, but having them on your payroll, caring for your elderly parents, all of those things can weigh in on your retirement, whether you're a baby boomer, whether you're a Gen Xer, and even some millennials are having to deal with this.
Is it the calendar year you turn 50, or you have a year?
The calendar year you turn 50. You can do it.
Joe, you still have time.
Yeah, I still have time. And you, as a Generation Z person, have you got...
firmly, I'm X. I'm X.
Okay. All right. We don't need to talk about what any of us are, I don't think.
We're timeless.
Cheese will be next.
Coming up, the pivotal, emotional week for Democrats as President Biden continues to say he's not going anywhere. Some members of his party disagree. Politico's Jonathan Martin.
Do you like the term hot mess? Or do you like dumpster fire?
It starts with S and ends with show.
Squawk Pod will be right back. This is Squawk Pod, today with Joe Kernen and Melissa Lee. Here's Melissa.
Now to the latest from Democratic lawmakers' meetings in Washington in the 2024 presidential race. Emily Wilkins joins us now with the very latest. Hey, Emily.
Hey, Melissa. Well, yeah, lawmakers are still feeling uneasy about the prospect of Biden continuing at the top of their ticket, but they're also worried about what an alternative could potentially look like. And after hours of discussion yesterday, there is still no consensus, and there are a lot of concerns, some of them for lawmakers about their own races. New Jersey Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill became the 7th sitting Democrat to publicly call on Biden to withdraw yesterday. She said that the stakes are too high and a new nominee is needed. We also caught up with her in the hallway. Listen to what she said.
I listened to my colleagues and then thought about the future of the country, the future of my family, my kids, and felt I needed to advocate as strongly as possible for new leadership so we could really prosecute the case against Donald Trump.
So as you heard there, she's listening to her constituents, she's listening to her family, she's thinking about a lot of things, and that is why she made the call yesterday. Lawmakers, they are becoming more aware of the potential impacts on their own races. We're beginning to see a little bit more polling now, and leading election forecaster Cook Political reports they updated 6 House and Senate races yesterday, and all of them in favor of Republicans winning down ballot. And that includes some very key Senate races in Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada, moving them from toss-ups to leaning toward a Republican victory. And if any of those states flip to a Republican victory, Republicans will be controlling the Senate next year. Some members are standing firm in their support of Biden, and this includes California Congressman Lou Correa, who said that Democrats are getting a much-needed wake-up call.
This is going to be a tough election in November. So people want Biden elected, you better roll up your sleeves and work really hard.
Lawmakers have 2 more days on Capitol Hill, and while conversations will continue, everyone does seem to be in agreement on one thing. It's all going to come down to what Biden decides to do. Guys?
Yeah.
And he's decided, Emily. So at what point do you think they're going to say, you know what, he's the guy. He's said this in many formats. So when are they going to stop? Because the damage, as you mentioned, is being felt already down ballot.
Exactly. I mean, folks coming out against Biden doesn't really look good for Biden himself. But I think at the same point in time, their lawmakers need to have some of their concerns quelled. They're looking at things like Biden's speech at NATO yesterday. That seemed to go well. Of course, he was using a teleprompter for that one.
It's a pleasure to host you in this milestone year, to look back with pride at all we've achieved and look ahead to our shared future with strength and with resolve.
They're also keeping a close eye on what their own internal polling is showing them. I mean, the big concern here, and Senator Bennett said this last night on CNN, but he said, hey, if Biden is going to be at the top of the ticket, there's a chance we could lose the Senate, a chance we could lose the House, that Republicans could sweep next year. And I think for a lot of Democrats, that is the absolute worst scenario. And so I think when they're going to be keeping an eye on what's going to go forward, but at this point, of course, the question is, even if they do call on Biden to step down, would another potential nominee guarantee that Senate victory, that House victory for Democrats?
Most of the people, Emily, and I know they're not thinking of themselves, far be it from any of these people to think of themselves, but they're all in at-risk areas where President Biden wasn't a lock last time either. So it's the oldest motivation in Washington, D.C., and that's getting reelected, and preservation for their own, spot in Congress. And they're all in, even the one, I think Mikey Sherrill is my person, Emily.
She does, yeah. She's northern New Jersey. And, she's run some difficult races in the past. She's a little bit in a safer seat now. But, you're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of lawmakers will be like, well, I run a couple points ahead of the president, so I'm not too worried. But
right.
The fact of the matter is that the number of voters who will actually say, well, I'll vote for the president from one party and then down ballot from another, that has declined in recent years. And it's just become much more common for the, top of the ticket all the way down. And a lot of lawmakers are cognizant of that.
It's amazing everybody's watching. The president, he was fine yesterday, I thought, at NATO. Pretty good speech. Teleprompter, obviously. But
press conference Thursday, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that, two of them called it a big boy press conference. Big boy. Can you define that? Is that a Washington term, big boy press conference? That means not a...
Big boy press conference.
Yeah.
I mean... As reporters, we treat all press conferences like big deal press conferences. But I think at this point, it's just every little move that Biden makes now, every speech he gives, every time he's at a public appearance, everyone is watching him very, very closely because there are still concerns. That question that Nancy Pelosi had, remember? She said, is this one incident or is this part of a larger pattern? And I think that question is on the minds of a ton of lawmakers right now. And again, of course, there's always that thing. If you have concerns about Biden, how confident are you that if he steps down, a candidate like a Kamala Harris or one of the other names that have been tossed around can actually guarantee that victory in November?
Well, there are a couple of pieces in the Journal today that says that Jason Riley, Kamala Harris could win. She'd bring back black voters and Democrats and women and everything else. So there is a movement afoot that says maybe she could do much better than people are thinking. I was even watching, he was putting the Medal of Freedom on the long-serving head of NATO. And I just as a person, I was like, because it was taking him a while. He put it on him, and he was taking it, and he was working on it. And when he got it, I was like, I was actually kind of relieved, Emily. So it's every single thing that he's doing. I mean, it'd take me a while to do that. I might finally say, somebody else. What if he said somebody else come in and do this? That might be it. That might be it. Might all be over.
I mean, you've got that. I mean, you have a number of lawmakers, too, who, if you want to talk about folks who are 80 years old, you have a number of members in Congress who are very much of that age and past that age.
I was going to say that.
But
Nancy,
I think it's just a matter of the perception, right? It's what you show to the public, and it's the confidence level that voters wind up having. And again, I mean, I feel like I keep coming back to this, but so many of the lawmakers who I spoke with yesterday said, look, it's not that we're 100% behind Biden. It's not that we don't have concerns. It's just that it's so uncertain what supports going forward. And even, I mean, when you think about Kamala Harris, who her big supporters are, yeah, her name's being bantered around on Capitol Hill. Folks are certainly talking about her, but it's not like there's one solid block of support that's really calling on her to come out. I mean, at this point, you've had the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, the Congressional Black Caucus be very firmly behind Biden, and you really haven't figured out exactly where that Harris block is on Capitol Hill.
Well, former Speaker Pelosi treading lightly, 84. So, I mean, how can you, it's hard to put a lot of fingers at that point. Thank you but everybody's different.
Sure, everybody ages
Everybody's
differently.
different. I'm ageless in my own mind. So let's bring in Jonathan Martin, politics bureau chief and senior political columnist. Jonathan, do you have a preference? Do you like the term hot mess, or do you like dumpster fire? Can you combine those two? Have you got a quick term for how you describe what the Democrats are facing right now?
I'm not sure what the NASDAQ shorthand is, but it starts with S and ends with show. I probably can't say
storm.
It on the air.
Yeah. I know what
exactly.
the S part is, but I mean, it's show or storm. It's just, it makes me uncomfortable even watching it. And then we were going to show pictures of Steny Hoyer, 85. So is Steny and Nancy, talking to one another about someone being too old and whether they're going to oust this guy when they're.
But here's the thing about that. I think you've actually put your finger on it, if unintentionally. Part of the challenge Democrats have had with Biden, especially in the House, is they look at Steny Hoyer and Nancy Pelosi, who, say what you will about them, and Joe, but they've actually aged into the 80s, their 80s, and still govern pretty darn effectively, regardless of your view of their politics. And I actually think, I've talked to a House Democrat who told me just that. We thought Biden was going to be okay because we looked at Pelosi and Hoyer, and they were fine into their early 80s.
Right.
And I
Grassley,
think that actually did shape this.
Yeah, Grassley. There are Warren Buffett. There are others. The classic Charlie Munger line when he was 99. He passed since then, but he was 99. He said, "I'm not nearly as sharp as I was when I was 96."
Exactly.
I mean, it's just such a great line. But
exactly.
So then we're back to blaming the people that kept him out of the public eye for the past 6 months. I thought it was pretty obvious anyway, but you think that some Democrats can say we had no idea it had gotten to this point. They kept him. Well, what? You think they can say that?
I do, and here's why. If you're a congressional Democrat or a Democratic governor, your exposure to Biden, for the most part, is ceremonial events, bill signings, a reception, a grip and grin photo line. You're not sitting down with him and actually talking shop extensively for a half an hour or an hour. There are a very small number of actual elected Democrats who have that kind of exposure on a regular basis. So, yeah, I think a lot of these folks who just came down to the White House for, the holiday party or when their bill got signed for a handshake and a photograph, thought he had aged but was still okay. And I think that, there was a denialism because, frankly, they've been much more focused on Trump and stopping Trump. And they didn't want to upset the apple cart. And they thought that Biden was good to go for one more turn out there. But let's not pretend like these Democrats were totally in the dark. They know he's going to turn 82 this fall, and they know that he's going to be closer to 90 than 80 when the second term was going to be done. There's other issues at play here, namely, they didn't want to countenance the idea of a messy Democratic primary this year. It was just easier, Joe, to salute and say, I'm for the incumbent, I'm for Biden.
Yeah, and he's got that working on his side. He won it fair and square with the primary voters. And then there's the other thing, Jonathan, that in the background, and maybe Kamala could be a good Vice President Harris. Maybe she could be a good candidate and satisfy certain things that the Democratic base is definitely looking for. She's been a spokesperson on abortion and other rights. Maybe she could take the mantle, but. Initially, there was some thought that, wow, that might not have been the best pick a couple of years ago. It's coming back to haunt them a little bit.
this is still the debate among Democratic lawmakers this hour as we speak. Which is our better option, not to win the presidency, which is our better option to salvage as many down ballot seats as we can? A wounded Joe Biden or a healthier Kamala Harris politically on top of the ticket? That is literally the debate that's still going on. I think part of the reason why there's some hesitation among Democrats to forcefully call for Biden's ouster is because they're not sure that even a politically healthy Kamala Harris would be better to save, for example, the Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Michigan Senate seats. That's still very much up for debate. Yeah.
Melissa, actually, this is rare. This is rare because you don't like political interviews. You like.
I enjoy listening to them, but
don't ask him about Nvidia, please.
I'm not going to ask him about Nvidia. Okay. I might ask him about Apple. No, just kidding, Jonathan. But getting
I wish
back
I bought Nvidia in calendar year 2022.
Yeah, join the club. But in terms of the show,
exactly.
I mean, isn't part of this though the feeling of betrayal? That Biden was shielded, and it makes this whole thing worse than if the concerns had been brought up prior because you had seen him in public, you had seen him making public appearances, et cetera. But there's this feeling that the debate was a bombshell, which is kind of crazy to think about considering he's the president of the United States, and yet we didn't have enough appearances to gauge his mental, state.
There is a boiling anger at Biden and frankly his family and inner circle. I've heard it from Democratic lawmakers every day since this debate that, I can't believe that they put him out there knowing what his condition was. You hear that all the time. And guys, the sort of current trendy comparison in Washington is that this moment's kind of like 2016 with the Republicans with Access Hollywood, in which a lot of the elected officials just didn't know what to do, and some of them wanted to dump the nominee, and there was this paralytic moment in the party. Here's the difference, though. Democrats right now, they like Joe Biden. A lot of them have a fondness and affection for Biden that the GOP didn't have for Trump in 2016, which also makes it harder to dump him because they do like him. They've known him for a bit. He's been around, obviously, for a long time, and that makes it tougher. And it makes that betrayal that you mentioned so much more personal and so much more biting.
What should we watch to know what's going on, Jonathan? I'm watching the Predictit, the RCP betting sites, and they're saying that the president can do whatever he wants. If he wants to stay, he can stay, and that's what the betting sites are saying. I don't know if that changes. Could change on a dime.
I think this week is the last exit. Look, next week is the GOP convention. Trump's picking his VP. I think this is the pivotal week, and I think tomorrow is a crucial day. Why? Because Biden is giving a kind of wrap-up NATO press conference. I think everybody on the Hill is going to be watching that press conference. Can he clear the bar? And if he can, I think they'll just move on, make the best of it, and I think this story will fade. Joe, I think if Biden doesn't have a good press conference, I think you'll see more lawmakers call for him to step down, including senators who've been on the fence. You know what they say, if you wound someone and you don't kill them, I don't know if I'd really want to be a person that went against the president if he's going to be the nominee. I don't know. That's precisely the issue. 4 years, man. Joe, they don't want to have a statement on the record calling for Biden to step down and then have to eat that statement this fall if Biden stays in the race. I'd pull a Chuck. I'm with Joe. I'm with Joe. Someone just looked at me. I'd just look at me. I'm with Joe. Vintage humor. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jonathan. See you later. Thanks, Joe.
Coming up on Squawk Pod, in the AI arms race, big tech alliances are starting to form, but not everyone is into teaming up. The Information editor-in-chief and founder Jessica Lessin has the scoop.
I think it's really interesting to see, once again, Elon kind of try and go at it alone here. It is a sign to me, too, that his ambitions for XAI, the product is called Grok, the chatbot, are perhaps bigger than even we realize.
Welcome back to Squawk Pod.
Stand by, Joe, in 3, 2, 1, his mic. Cue.
You're watching Squawk Pod on CNBC. I'm Joe Kernen, along with Melissa Lee, who asked a question of that guy. Thank you.
I'm capable of asking about other things than stocks, Joe.
You want to distinguish yourself because of fast money. You wouldn't have Jonathan on fast money, would you?
We would.
Oh, you would? To talk about the market implications of what's going on.
Of course, but
okay.
that's what we do on CNBC in general.
Speak for yourself. Among today's...
Our next guest says the race for semiconductors and data centers is getting really complicated, with the big players forming strange alliances. Joining us now with more for Scoop in this issue is Jessica Lessin, founder, editor-in-chief, and CEO of The Information. Jessica, great to have you with us. We already see sort of the strange lineups that are happening right now, particularly, in this most recent story with Microsoft turning down the observer role in OpenAI and Apple having that same sort of situation. But specifically, you're talking about Oracle chips and Microsoft. I mean, can you explain what sort of strange alliances are going on and how long you think they will go on for before just this competitive nature really kicks in and said, them saying, we can't do this anymore?
Absolutely. The land grab here is really for the tens and hundred, maybe billion dollars of compute power to power AI. And yesterday, the information broke that Elon Musk, who had been talking to Oracle about partnering with them to train his competitor to OpenAI, has said, no, I'm going to go at it alone. And actually, the talks broke down over disagreements over how fast a supercomputer could be. So that shows you kind of where we are in this AI race. But what's interesting to me is, so Elon was talking to Oracle, is doing it alone. At the same time, Oracle is helping Microsoft supply its compute power to power OpenAI. So what we're really seeing here is a very, very expensive land grab over what we're now calling supercomputers. And I think it has a lot of implications for really the business models and cost structures of these companies going forward.
I mean, it's strange to think that if Oracle's was going to build that for XAI and it's building it for Microsoft, what this means in terms of, it being hired to build data centers across the industry. So everybody's going to be running on an Oracle data center. I mean, when you think out about the implication, it just seems like they're going to have certain players will end up having a monopoly because everybody's in this land grab and they're just getting the equipment and the data center they need as quickly as possible.
Well, clearly Nvidia also benefits because they're supplying, they're the picks and shovels. But yes, no, and Microsoft still has an incredible amount of power itself. But to supply what it needs for OpenAI, plus all of its other customers, it sort of needs the spillover from Oracle. So, I think it's early, Melissa. I think it's very early in figuring this out. At the same time, these data centers need to be built years, even further in advance, which is why we're seeing these alliances be struck. And I think it's really interesting to see, once again, Elon kind of try and go at it alone here. It is a sign to me, too, that his ambitions for XAI, the product is called Grok, the chatbot, are perhaps bigger than even we realize. And obviously, a player like Elon coming into this AI race, which so far has been Microsoft, OpenAI, Google, little bit of Anthropic. I think it's also a sign that he's really, really serious and that he wants to be a player in this as well.
We must have our own hands on the steering wheel rather than be the backseat driver. I mean, he thinks the race is that fierce at this point. I mean, how do you think about what Grok could be and what his sort of grand plans might be?
I think the time will tell with the technology. One of the things I'm interested in is this race is really in the realm of large language models, which is a certain type of AI model, very good at certain tasks, not very good at other tasks. So personally, I'm very interested in seeing sort of next generation models that can go beyond LLMs. I think there's still a ton of runway within the LLM world, and that's the fight Elon's getting into. Of course, his model, he says, will censor less than the other models. So there's certainly a free speech thread he's pursuing, much like X itself. But it's very early to say. We are still in the land grab for compute power. We're in the land grab for talent. AI engineers are really the cream of the crop in terms of talent these days. And it's exciting to watch. And I think the future is unclear.
Yep. Jessica, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Lessin.
And that's the pod for today. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Thanks to Melissa Lee for pinch hitting. You can tune in weekday mornings to CNBC at 6 Eastern, or get the best of our show, the smartest takes, the news-making interviews. Get it right in your ears in this 30-minute-ish podcast. It's brief.
Use strunk and white, brevity. Use only.
Not everybody
you're
can
good.
be.
No, you.
Not everybody
you're good.
can be as.
You're good.
Good as you, Joe.
Follow Squawk Pod wherever you listen, wherever you're listening now. We'll meet you right back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.